Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tackling the ultimate blueprint for hardwood floor refinishing. And really, this is all about bridging the gap between the art of your craft and the science of the sale. If you're working with wood, you already know that blending top-tier technical craftsmanship with sharp business acumen is the ultimate sweet spot. So, let's dig right into how to make sure your final product looks absolutely flawless and that your bank account actually reflects your expertise.
Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. We're going to cover a lot of ground quickly. We've got estimating your material needs, choosing the right stain, mastering the flawless prep workflow, calculating your total costs, and finally building the client quote. Let's jump right in.
Starting with Section 1, estimating your material needs and mastering those all-important coverage rates. So as a baseline, 1 gallon of stain is going to cover somewhere between 150 and 300 square feet per coat. But here is the golden rule for your workflow. You should always buy 10 to 15% extra. Because, let's be honest, running out of stain right in the middle of a floor is an absolute nightmare. That extra buffer accounts for things like tray spillage, unexpected absorption, and those crucial little touch-ups later on, keeping your momentum going strong. Now you might be wondering why that 15 to 300 range is so massive. Well, it all comes down to the wood's porosity and the specific species. A rough sun or a severely weathered wood is incredibly thirsty. It's going to drink that stain right up, which keeps you hovering right near that 150 mark. But a beautifully smooth, freshly sanded floor, that pushes you much closer to 300. Oh, and keep in mind, because that first coat fills the pores, your second coat will usually require about 20 to 25% less product. Moving on to Section 2, choosing the right stain and formulations for success.
This really breaks down the classic trade-off in floor finishing chemistry. It's essentially speed versus forgiveness. Water-based stains dry incredibly fast. We're talking just 1 to 2 hours, with a super easy soap and water cleanup, giving you a crisp, clear color. But they are finicky. If you aren't quick and precise, they will streak on you. Oil-based stains, on the flip side, are amazingly forgiving to apply, and they leave this rich, dimensional amber finish. The catch? You're looking at a slow 8 to 24-hour dry time, plus high VOC fumes that will literally clear out a house if you don't have serious ventilation.
To avoid a botched application, the pros rely on very specific formulations. For example, Minwax is a reliable oil-based standard that, surprisingly, dries in just 2 hours. Then you have Duraseal Quick Coat, which is fantastic because it's universally compatible with both oil and water-based top coats. And if you're terrified of lap marks, which, let's face it, we all are, Bona Dry Fast is your absolute best friend. It gives you an extended open time so you can blend sections effortlessly without leaving those dreaded overlapping lines.
All right, Section 3, the flawless prep workflow and securing the foundation.
Let's talk about the professional rule of 3 for your sanding progression. You start by drum sanding to 60 or 80 grit. Next, you step up to 100 or 120 grit, making sure you perfectly match those hand-sanded edges to the main floor. Finally, you do a final buff with 100 to 120 grit sanding screen. The absolute non-negotiable rule here, you cannot skip grits. No way. If you try to jump straight from 60 grit to a fine finishing screen, the finer paper physically won't remove the deep scratches left behind, and your fresh stain is going to highlight every single flaw.
Now, I want to let you in on a massive professional secret: water popping. Basically, this is the process of lightly dampening your freshly sanded floor with clean water using a microfiber mop. What this does is it literally forces the wood grain to stand up. Why go through the extra effort? Because it is absolutely crucial for ensuring perfectly even and consistent stain absorption. If you're putting down dark, rich colors, water popping is literally the difference between a blotchy, amateur-looking job and a flawless, showroom-quality floor.
So let's look at the exact mechanics of a water pop. After your final sand at 100 to 120 grit, you dampen the floor with clean water. Then, you have to let it dry completely. Now, a quick word of caution. When it dries, the wood is going to feel fuzzy and rough to the touch. Do not panic. That is exactly what is supposed to happen. To fix that fuzziness before the stain actually goes down, you just need to do a very light denibbing pass. Take a fine 150 to 180 grit screen to just gently knock down those raised fibers.
Before we shift gears into the business side, here is your final supply checklist for that store run. You're going to need 100 to 120 grit discs or belts, 150 to 180 grit screens for that denibbing we just talked about, and 220 grit screens or sponges. Now that 220 grit is strictly for very light sanding between your coats of top coat. Grab way more tack cloths than you think you need. You want constant dust from wall. And one massive warning here: never, ever use steel wool if you're applying a water-based finish. The water will actually cause tiny little fragments of the steel wool to rust right inside your finish, completely ruining the floor. Always stick to synthetic pads.
Let's transition over to commerce. Section 4. Calculating your total costs.
Let's ground ourselves in the actual financial stakes here. The industry standard rate for a full sand, stain, and seal job ranges anywhere from $3 to $8 per square foot. To put that into perspective, for a standard 1,300 square foot home, that is a gross estimate between $3,900 and $10,400. That's a huge gap, right? Where you land in that range depends entirely on how effectively you understand and calculate your true hidden costs.
So here is your internal math formula broken down. First up, calculate labor. Take your man-hours multiplied by your hourly rate. Keep in mind, a 2-person crew working 2 8-hour days? Well, actually, scratch that. That isn't just 16 hours, it's 32 total man-hours you have to account for. Second, factor materials. Add up the raw cost of the stain and consumables, plus a non-negotiable 10 to 20% margin for the time you spend sourcing them. Finally, add overhead. This covers the real cost of doing business, like equipment rentals, travel fuel, and your business insurance.
And that brings us to our final step, Section 5, building the client quote and getting paid what you're worth. Take a look at this sample structure for a client quote. We've got category, description, and estimated cost. Notice how we cleanly separate labor from materials, which again includes that crucial margin, and we list overhead as a completely distinct line item. Why do it this way? Because it stops clients from trying to negotiate your profit down by claiming you have expensive labor. Plus, it immediately establishes a highly professional, totally transparent image right out of the gate.
During your initial walkthrough, you need to be hyper-vigilant about spotting hidden time sinks. Are you going to be hauling their heavy antique sofa out of the way? Are there decades of sticky wax buildup that will just eat right through your sandpaper? What about complex exotic woods or waste disposal logistics? If these extensive prep elements aren't accounted for up front, they act like silent budget killers, completely wiping out your hard-earned labor profit.
Now, clients are occasionally going to ask about material markups and overhead fees. When they do, steal this exact script. The material line item includes a standard margin to cover the time and logistics of sourcing, transporting, and storing professional-grade products, while the overhead fee ensures we bring fully insured, specialized equipment to your home. Boom. You instantly flip a potential objection into a powerful, tangible demonstration of your reliability and professionalism.
We've covered a ton today, from the technical science of coverage rates and the art of flawless prep like water popping, to the strict business mechanics of pricing and quoting a job. So I want to leave you with a provocative question to evaluate your current business model. Are you charging for your true expertise or just your hours on the floor? Because once you start fully valuing the craft, the back-end business operations, and the hidden logistical expertise you bring to every single job, your profitability is going to completely transform. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.